It was gearing up to be the most anticipated meeting in decades. But now the June 12th summit between Kim Jong-un and President Trump is shrouded in uncertainty. President Trump today saying he will still insist on denuclearization of North Korea. And the president's comments coming after the North Koreans canceled a high-level meeting with the South Koreans and threatened to cancel the meeting with President Trump if Washington insists on pushing them, quote, into a corner on nuclear disarmament. Let's get more perspective. Joining us now is Professor of Korean Studies at the Fletcher School at Tufts University, Professor Sung-Yoon Lee. Good to have you here, Professor. Like your haircut.
Thank you.
We've seen this from North Korea before, right? Isn't this the same old movie that they do over and over again? Haven't they threatened to pull out before?
It's always tease, 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 as the song Should I Stay or Should I Go goes. North Korea just did this in January on the day before the North Korean head of the delegation, Miss Hyun, the singer, was to show up in South Korea. North Korea canceled in the middle of the night, got the South Koreans very nervous and behaved very politely, saying nothing but good things about North Korea, and then she showed up. And then they did it again 10 days later, canceling a scheduled joint North Korean South Korean pop concert in Pyongyang. So this is how North Korea tames its adversaries. I think the U.S. has shown its serious interest in holding a summit meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un by sending Mike Pompeo twice now within 40 days or so to meet with Kim. So North Korea is merely trying to enhance its leverage in bargaining with the United States by doing this.
Joining us, too, is also Hans Nichols. He's a reporter at the Pentagon. Hans, what are you hearing? We already heard from the administration a couple times kind of shrugging their shoulders and saying, OK, you don't want to have a meeting, that's fine with us, playing it tough.
Well, look, they're still planning on a meeting. That was clearly the signal out of the State Department yesterday. Here, they're trying to get in the back and forth on what these military drills actually entail. And you hear this big protest from the North Koreans on this drill, something called Max Thunder. And there's some back and forth in the Korean press, at least, that a B-52 was scheduled, and this is a big airplane that has nuclear capabilities, was scheduled to participate and then wasn't. Here at the Pentagon, they're saying there was never any schedule, never any plan to have the B-52s participate in this exercise. Here it's kind of on the tactical conversation on just what the exercise is about, the importance of interoperability, and that's really why you have an alliance, so you can make sure you're working with each other. As the larger political questions, the strategic ones, they're basically punting to the White House here and saying, listen to what the president's saying. And if the president's going full steam ahead and wants to have these negotiations, then they will support and try to let the diplomats negotiate from a position of strength.
Hans, does the Pentagon believe that Kim Jong-un is destroying nuclear facilities even as we speak?
No, we don't have any intel to suggest that they've gone that far, right? They monitor things closely, and, you know, when you look at a couple of the openings of that mountain there, some of them have already been sealed from previous explosions. But in terms of open source document and what the Pentagon here looks at through their own highly classified systems, there's been no official indication that they think that this facility is closed for business. And as they always say here, it's easy enough to open up these basically mining tunnels. I believe agates is the actual term for them. It's easy enough to open up new openings, and you can get down in there into the tunnels and figure out how to make it operable yet again.
Sung-Yoon, obviously there's a lot of posturing, back and forth, tweeting, rhetoric until this happens. And I know the North Koreans have a high pain threshold when it comes to sanctions, but how much money is at stake here? What kind of investment could flow into North Korea from America and from other places if they do agree to denuclearize? And ultimately, isn't that what's going to move the needle for this leader?
Well, during the Clinton-Bush continuum between 1995 and 2008, the United States, on the record, gave North Korea $1.3 billion worth of food and fuel aid, all for what? For North Korea's repeated lies of denuclearization. South Korea, during those heady years, gave the North almost $1 billion, most of that in cash, for North Korea's pledges of denuclearization. So things could change for the better, certainly for North Korea. But in the meantime, what North Korea seeks is a drawn-out, open-ended, never-ending negotiating process, not an actual resolution to negotiations, but a negotiation process which will compel the Trump administration to make various concessions like prematurely lifting sanctions.
What do you think of the White House's response so far, where Sarah Huckabee Sanders comes out and says, hey, we're committed to denuclearization. They don't want to hold a meeting. Fine with us.
Well, that's okay for now, but I think we can see which party is more desperate for a meeting. And I think the meeting will eventually take place. It may be pushed back a little bit because it's in the interest of both North Korea and the United States. There will be political victories for both leaders in the short term in the wake of a summit meeting and bonhomie and change in the dynamics in the region. At the same time, Kim has far more to gain by playing this game once again and engaging the U.S. in never-ending negotiations than Trump.
So, Sung-Yoon, do you have any expectation or hopefulness that eventually this process results in the denuclearization of North Korea and peace on the Korean Peninsula?
Well, through conventional diplomacy, no, because we're talking about nuclear diplomacy, which is really international politics played at the highest level, short of waging war. We're not talking about trade sanctions or trade quota, import quota, and so forth. So unless Kim Jong-un is presented with a credible specter of extinction, perhaps an imminent uprising, once his ability to placate his generals is diminished increasingly. Unless we come to a crisis point, North Korea will not change, it will not disarm. It will call for mutual disarmament talks and drag this process out so that it can gain more goodies from the US, from South Korea, from Japan, and certainly from China and Russia, as it has in the past.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.